This is a guided imagery type of meditation. So let's think about the crane that stands at the water's edge. The crane looks like it's sleeping, erect, yet very still, eyes perhaps half closed. Anyone looking at that crane would say, that crane is sleeping. Because what the crane is doing is really so effortless. When we see that crane, we may say, ah, look, that white plumage ruffling in the breeze, those long legs touching at the water's edge, or maybe even in the very shallow part of the water. But certainly that crane is sleeping. That's what we think we see. In fact, though, that still, silent crane is fully awake, is entirely watchful. But what we see is a sleeping crane. Now, the crane is not trying to trick us. Us humans, with our human vision and our human senses. No. The crane, in fact, is doing exactly what it needs to do with its skill, which is to appear like it's sleeping, completely immobile, because that crane's survival is completely reliant on that immobility, that softness in its strength. Because that crane maintains strength, yet softness. That crane maintains softness, yet strength. The white plumage flutters a bit in the breeze, imperceptible, nearly imperceptible. The crane stands very still. But that is not true. That is a deception. The crane is completely active and it's still standing. And that crane is very active. But also still. And that stillness is an action. crane is a crane because it is not a hummingbird. The crane is a crane because it will rely on that one fish that it needs to catch so that it can live another day, another 2 days. Now, we may see other waterfowl and say, but look at the ducks and look at the loons, look at the terns. They flutter, they dive, they are constantly moving. But they are not the crane. And the crane is not them. So the crane stands at the water's edge, or with its feet in the very shallows. And we look at that crane and say, that crane is sleeping. That crane is sleeping. Certainly that crane must be sleeping. The crane stands, strong in its softness and soft in its strength, fully awake. And fully at peace in its wakefulness. There is no strain. There is no hurry. The crane, it relies on that one deliberate split-second movement at the right time to plunge its beak into the water and capture a fish. And therefore we must believe, just as the fish believe, that the crane is sleeping. And for those of us looking at the crane, thinking the crane is sleeping, well, that crane might give a little chuckle and say, aha, silly human, you are the one who's sleeping. And the crane might give a little chuckle, ha, at the fish who thinks the crane is sleeping, and say, fish, you are the one who's sleeping. The crane is standing soft, yet strong. The crane is standing strong, yet softly. at the water's edge, or perhaps a little bit in the shallows. There is a slight breeze, and its plumage flutters ever so slightly, barely perceptible. And that crane, it is a crane because it is not a duck, it is not a loon, it is not a hummingbird, and it is not a tern. The crane is the crane. Soft and strong, strong yet soft, standing at the water's edge, or slightly in the shallows. We look at the crane and we may say or think, surely that crane is sleeping. But really, it is we who are sleeping.